Blog holds on to a ghoul as he says the cock in front of them should be called a dragon. The first dragon feared being defeated, so it split its power and formed a cockatrice. Hendard attacks the cock, saying his effort should be enough to impress his master, and Leaper also attacks. Meanwhile, Hansol works out and says his muscle growth is slower than a bodybuilder. He is happy because 3 months have passed and the ghouls continued training with him. The ghouls were weak and Hansol had to teach them the exercise basics. They persevered through the pain and Hansol is happy. He says his master also disappeared when he was his age and a ghoul runs to him. The ghoul informs him that everyone is in danger and Hansol asks for directions. He strengthens his leg muscles as the ghoul points at the fight scene and he is angry. He cancels the skills that stop him and jumps towards the other ghouls. Leaper fights a cock while Hendard attempts to distract it. Blog gets angry because they aren't paying attention to the fight and trying to protect him. The cock knocks Leaper to the ground, but he tells Hendard he did a good job. Hendard begins to run as the cock prepares to attack and he tells Blog they cannot defeat it. Blog says he can't dodge its incoming attack, but the ghouls form a comprehensive auxiliary set. They struggle to hold on and waiting for Hansol to return, and the cocks hit several times. The cocks eventually break the formation and the ghouls fall to the ground. The cocks prepare to attack the ghouls as they say bad things happen. A strange object lands from the sky and kills a cock. The smoke clears and the ghouls watch as Ghoulord emerges. They wonder what he is doing, and another object lands a short distance away from the others. Hansol stands and realizes he jumped the wrong direction. Ghoulord stands in front of the cocks and Blog wonders if he is the ghouls' leader. The ghouls are happy with his arrival and think he has a plan. Ghoulord asks the cocks if that's all they can do and they angrily stare at him. The ghouls watch in excitement, but Ghoulord suddenly screams and asks Hansol to come out because he has distracted the cocks. He wonders where Hansol is and gets terrified. 6 hours ago, Ghoulord stepped out of his tent and wondered why the hunting team is taking so long. He is hungry and decides to find what to eat. 5 minutes earlier, he sees the cocks attack the ghouls and says no one is allowed to bully or attack the ghouls except him. He picks up a rock and prepares to attack. Ghoulord didn't train with the other ghouls, and his position as second in command didn't change. His reason for remaining at that level is because he used his skill continuously to help Hansol and the ghouls train. Ghoulord's skill increased, but he himself didn't notice. Because of this, he can pick up a giant rock and defeat a cock with it. In the present, Ghoulord is scared, but the ghouls motivate him. He attempts to fight, but a cock hits him and sends him flying. Blog apologizes to his friends for not understanding their jokes and says he will fight until the end. The ghouls get motivated and rush at the cocks as they say they'd like Hansol to be their master in their next life. Meanwhile, Ghoulord crashes behind Hansol and begs him to save the ghouls, who are their subordinates. He passes away as he talks and Hansol gets furious. His body begins to vibrate and the system activates the calm skill because of his anger. The cocks suddenly stop attacking the ghouls and run into the woods as the ghouls are confused. They surround Hansol as he tells the system he is calmer than ever but doesn't appear calm. The ghouls follow the cocks as they run and they feel Hansol's vibrations. Blog asks who Hansol is and they say he is their master who has the most sensitive muscles. He says Hansol is their new ghoul lord, but Blog doesn't understand what he is saying. Hansol stands in front of the cocks and one attacks him. He sends it flying using a single arm and the others get angry. The cocks jump and land on Hansol, but he holds them up. He flies towards one and knocks it down with a kick. Hansol's ancestors say his ancestors can grade a person's muscle development using the degree of vibrations in their chest. He can develop their chest muscles using his chest and asks the cocks if they can do the same. A cock attacks it, but he knocks it away and prepares another attack. Hansol uses his kettlebell swing to knock the cocks down and kills them with a log of wood. Hansol is about to defeat all the cocks without assistance. Blog and the ghouls arrive as he carries Leaper, and he asks the ghouls if Hansol is their ghoul lord. They watch as Hansol hits the cocks with a wooden log, and Blog says he is an extremely strong humanoid monster. Hansol wonders how long he can maintain his buff form and says he won't be able to face Ghoulord, who volunteered to help with his training. He decides to finish the fight with one big move and prepares to use his bench press skill. The system warns Hansel that his lower limb cannot handle his upper limb and instructs him to loosen his upper body. Several cocks attack Hansel, but Blog and the others support him. They push him forward as they say he should go for another set, and Hansel attacks the cocks. He successfully defeats them and thanks Ghoulord for his help. Hansel lies on the floor and says he will miss Ghoulord. The ghouls talk about how violent Ghoulord was, but he became nice with Hansel's presence. Hansel asks the ghouls to help him stand, but they move away and he stands on his own. Ghoulord suddenly emerges and says he was taking a nap because he didn't feel all right. Hansel and the others rush and hug him in excitement because he isn't dead. General Rion stands with Count Werdo in Werdo Duchy, and Hendard and Leaper tell him that Hansel defeated the cocks by himself. Werdo says he must think carefully about how he will deal with Hansel because he is dangerous. Rion asks the duo where Blog is, and they begin to cry. Earlier, Hansel examines Blog as Leaper and Hendard attack him. He stops their attack and asks Blog to come and train with him if he wants to be strong. Leaper and Hendard beg Rion to save Blog, but Werdo says they can't take the risk due to uncertainty. Rion instructs the duo to prepare for battle and says Hansel crossed the line by touching her student. In the ghoul village, Hansel says they will start with squats because Blog is a newcomer. He teaches Blog what a squat is and gets him in the proper position. Blog does a proper squat, and Hansel asks if he has exercised in the past. Hansel places a barbell on Blog and motivates him to complete the squat. He and the ghouls congratulate Blog, and Hansel says he made the right choice recruiting Blog. Hansel talks to Blog and says he might not be as strong as his friends. Blog says he knows he cannot keep up with a genius, but Hansel says he will become stronger than his friends and protect them. He says Blog has a rare talent in him, and this touches Blog. Blog admits that it's his first time being acknowledged by others, and he cries. Hansel's Hawkeye levels up and enters the 3rd level. Hansel holds several baby cocks, and the ghouls ask him why he brought them. He says they can't hunt the cocks recklessly, else there won't be any left to eat. Ghoulord says Hansel is the only one who can defeat the cocks if they evolve, but rephrases his statement as Hansel stares at him angrily. He apologizes as Hansel asks why he is underestimating himself. The ghouls return to their training ground and continue training. Blog trains as Ghoulord helps him and doubles the weight of the barbell. Hansel trains as he moves around and watches the ghouls train. Rion suddenly intrudes on their training and attacks the ghouls. The ghouls wonder what happened, and Rion goes to Ghoulord and asks if he is the monster that kidnapped her student. Ghoulord says he isn't the chief anymore, and she tries to attack him, but Hansel blocks her sword. Rion is surprised that Hansel blocked her attack, and Leaper and Hendard say he is the one who kidnapped Blog. She apologizes for interrupting and says Blog is her student. Hansel asks Blog to be honest, and Blog says he prefers exercising to swordplay. He apologizes to Rion and says he has a new master. Rion prepares to attack as she says she will forcefully take him back. Hansel poses as he flexes his muscles and it deflects her attack. Rion suggests that she and Hansel compete against each other and the winner will have him as their student. She says the winner will have superior martial arts, and Hansel says exercising isn't martial arts. He says exercising builds a person's body, and he used it to kill the cockatrice and survive. Rion says exercise is useless in combat, and Hansel gets angry. She says it is pointless because it can't help a person fight, and she calls it trash. Hansel suddenly transforms into a large form and says he will show her what exercise is for. Some ghouls wonder who is stronger between Hansel and Rion, and they say Hansel is stronger because he is bigger. Blog says Rion is among the 10 strongest people in the continent. Hansel examines Rion and wonders how she cut him with her small muscles. Rion asks Hansel what martial arts he will use and attacks him as she says her swordsmanship can cut her enemies into pieces using ki. Rion attacks Hansel as he blocks and deflects, and she calls him an alien. She dodges his attack as she says the mana around him is red, and she jumps in the air. The closer a person's bloodline is to the demons, the redder their mana. She strikes the ground with her attack, but Hansel dodges and says a person's body changes when they exercise. Rion uses her combat skills and attacks Hansel with several blades. Hansel falls to the ground and she asks how he can beat a sword technique with such weak martial arts. Hansel asks how strong her opponents get the following day, and Rion says they don't get stronger. She attacks him with the same skill, but he poses and deflects it. He informs her that those who go to the gym always get stronger than their opponent. Leaper and Hendard talk to Blog and apologize for bringing their master. Blog says he stayed behind to learn from Hansel and will return home when he is done. The duo is happy to hear this and asks Blog what he is learning. Blog takes the duo to where he exercises and asks Gulord to assist them. He reminds them that their master taught them that the lower body is an important part of swordsmanship. He says they will be doing squats and he will assist them. Rion continues fighting but suddenly stops as she sees Blog and the others exercising. She says she likes what they are doing and decides to include Hansel's exercise into her training. They decide to work together as Rion sees her men's passion. Hansel is impressed by Rion's forearm muscles and asks her what exercises she does. She says her hobby is swinging a sword around all day, so that's probably why her muscles are developed. She asks Hansel if it is alright to teach his training without getting anything in return. Hansel says it's alright because there will be a gym wherever he goes if more people learn. Rion says he is funny and promises to fulfill any favor he asks. The group settles to rest at night as they travel, and Blog talks to Hansel. He says there is a serious discrimination in the place he lives, and it is toward different species. The people treat humans well, especially swordsmen, and Blog is worried about the ghouls. Hansel suddenly walks to the animal's food, takes a handful, and eats it. He has tears in his eyes as he realizes it is oats, and the warriors wonder what is wrong with him. Gulord walks to the warriors and gives them a plate of food that he made. They wonder what it is but admit that it smells nice. The warriors are shocked as they taste the food and they love its flavor. Hansel walks to Rion and says he wants her to give him the oat crops. Rion says the food is for horses and says Hansel likes farming. Hansel says he and the ghouls will eat it, and Rion says she feels sorry for giving them animal feed. A ghoul informs him that she is a high-ranking human, and Rion says she can do more important things than give him animal feed. Hansel says eating only protein will damage a person's liver and that oats are the best for exercise. The humans and ghouls get motivated by what he says and eat the oats but spit them out because it is disgusting. Blog continues eating and says he likes the oats. Rion says she will convince the Count to give Hansel what he wants. The party returns to the city and the humans comment and discriminate against the ghouls. The ghouls feel nervous as they walk through the city, and Hansel instructs them to maintain their posture. He says the people stare at them because they have nice bodies, and the ghouls flex as they walk. The humans discriminating against them wonder if the ghouls are enjoying the discrimination. Rion talks to Count Werdo, and he asks if Hansel will leave after teaching them. He says Hansel's reward will be the oats, and he thinks Hansel is rude. Werdo instructs Hansel not to cause trouble and to leave the castle after teaching. Hansel asks him to come and exercise with them, but Werdo thinks he is arrogant. Rion and Hansel leave the palace, and Werdo summons the titular mercenary corps. He says Rion's guest will drag her down and smiles. In the training grounds, a soldier instructs the others to stop training and introduces Hansel as a special teacher. The humans wonder why a monster will teach them, and the soldier says they are going against the law if they refuse to follow Rion's orders. Hansel instructs everyone to lie on their hands, and the ghouls do as he says. The humans hesitate but lie on their hands, and a man asks why are they listening to monsters. The man convinces the humans to stand and tells Hansel they don't listen to a monster's orders. The man pulls his sword, and he says they don't have to learn exercises done by monsters. Gulord intervenes and says they can solve the problem with words. He says Blog can give orders instead of Hansel, and a woman should spar with a ghoul to see whose training method is better. The man decides to represent the humans and smiles because he is not an ordinary trainee. He attacks the ghoul that represents the monsters, and the ghoul punches him. The ghoul knocks him out, and they rush to check if he is alright. Hansel tells the ghoul not to be harsh against his enemies, and the ghoul apologizes. He instructs the humans to obey his orders because the monsters won, but the man rushes to attack the ghoul using a combat skill. Ghoul Lord stops the man as he reaches the ghoul, and Hansel hits him and sends him flying into a wall. Rian arrives at the training ground and goes to check on Hansel. She sees as the trainees gather and say the monsters use magic. She asks the instructor what is happening, and he says their soldier fought against the ghouls and lost. Some humans suspect the ghouls of using magic, and Rian asks Hansel if he did. Hansel says they didn't use magic, and the instructor agrees, but Count Werdo emerges and asks if she will believe a monster. He asks if she is on the monster's side, and Rian says she is with the humans. Hansel thinks Werdo has come to train, but Ghoul Lord says he hasn't. Werdo tells Rian he cherishes her, but her guests have caused a lot of trouble. He says he cannot ignore it and exiles her for 2 years. Rian stares at him with an evil gaze and frightens him. The soldiers scream in disapproval as they don't want her to leave. She asks Werdo to keep his promise and let the monster stay for 3 months, and Werdo agrees. Rian yells at the soldiers for not listening to the Count's orders and says they should be quiet. She decides to use her punishment as a time to rest and wonders how the trainees will change. Rian smiles as she leaves and says things will be interesting when she returns. Later, the man, who is a mercenary, leaves the city with his gold and says he will save enough to stop his dirty jobs. He looks at a picture of his wife and daughter and says he will return home soon. Unknown to the mercenary, zombies attack his town, and a strange man dances with a woman named Elise. The end. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.